How many times have you looked back at your life and thought, damn, if only I knew this sooner? Fact. 90% of men regret not learning these lessons earlier, especially when it comes to women, purpose, and self-respect. And here's the brutal truth. Most men don't wake up until they've already lost the girl, wasted years chasing validation, or hit rock bottom feeling empty. What if I told you that the reason women walk away, opportunities slip through your fingers, and life feels like an uphill battle isn't because you're not good enough? It's because you were never taught how to be unstoppable. Right now, you might be thinking, I don't need advice, but what if the next 60 seconds could save you years of pain, heartbreak, and regret? Because let's be real, no man ever plans to end up lonely, stuck, or taken for granted, but most do. And that's exactly why you need to listen Silosawai. These aren't just motivational quotes. These are 7 raw, unfiltered truths that will change how you see yourself, women, and success favar. So tell me, are you ready to face what most men ignore until it's too late? Or will you keep making the same mistakes while life passes you by? The choice is yours. Let me tell you a hard truth that will either piss you off or set you free, that gnawing emptiness inside you. No woman can fill it. Not the hottest girl you're obsessing over right now, not your ex who walked away, not even the fantasy version of the perfect girlfriend you've created in your head. You've been sold the lie that getting the girl equals getting happiness, so you pour all your energy into chasing, texting first, always being available, molding yourself into whatever you think she wants. But here's what happens when you make a woman your purpose. You disappear. Not physically, but energetically. You become background noise in her life because you've shown her you have nothing more interesting going on than her. That anxiety when she takes hours to reply. That's not love, that's withdrawal symptoms from your validation addiction. Every time you rearrange your schedule for someone who wouldn't cross the street for you, every time you double text after being left on read, you're telling the universe you're desperate for scraps instead of feasting at the table of your own purpose. The painful irony. Women can smell this neediness like sharks smell blood, not because they're cruel, but because nature wired them to detect weak foundations. But here's the life-changing flip side. When you become obsessed with building something greater than any woman, when you wake up driven by a mission that excites you more than any text notification, that's when everything shifts. Suddenly you're not begging for attention, you're deciding who deserves yours. The women who blew you off start circling back. The ones who zunned you suddenly see you differently. Not because you played games, but because you stopped playing altogether. That void you've been trying to fill with relationships and hookups. It was never meant to be filled. It was meant to drive you to build something legendary. The man who needs nothing attracts everything. The man who chases nothing cannot be caught. So ask yourself right now, are you going to keep running after people who treat you like an option, or will you finally become the man who makes himself the priority? The choice is yours, but remember, kings don't chase. They build empires so magnificent that others beg to be let inside the gates. Let me break down a painful reality you probably haven't considered every time you say yes when you want to say no. Every time you tolerate disrespect to keep the peace. Every time you make yourself endlessly available to people who wouldn't do the same for you, you're not being nice, you're being weak. Your energy is the most valuable currency you possess, yet you're giving it away like monopoly money to anyone who asks. Here's what nobody tells you. The world treats you exactly how you teach people to treat you. That friend who only hits you up when he needs something. You trained him to do that by always being available. That woman who keeps you in her back pocket. You showed her you're comfortable being an option. The brutal truth is neediness repels while boundaries attract, not because people are cruel, but because deep down everyone respects the man who respects himself first. Think about the most magnetic men you know. They're not the ones constantly bending over backwards to please everyone. They're the ones who move through the world with quiet confidence, who don't explain themselves unnecessarily, who understand that no is a complete sentence. When you start guarding your time like it's gold and your peace like it's oxygen, something miraculous happens. The takers and energy vampires suddenly disappear from your life, making room for people who actually value you. But here's the hardest pill to swallow: some of those draining relationships you're clinging to. You don't miss them, you miss who you thought they were. The moment you stop being the guy who's always there to fix other people's problems is the moment you become the man who's too busy building his empire to be distracted by their drama. Remember this: you're not a rescue boat for broken people. You're a lighthouse standing firm, shining bright, and letting the right people find their way to you. The quality of your life will be determined by the quality of your boundaries. So who and what are you allowing past your gates? Let me shatter one of the most toxic illusions you've been sold. The world doesn't owe you fairness, and life doesn't reward effort. It rewards value. That bitterness you feel when you see less deserving men succeed, that resentment when women choose bad boys over nice guys, that's the sound of your entitlement crashing into reality. Here's the cold truth: you could be the hardest working, most loyal man in the room and still get passed over, still get betrayed, still end up alone. But here's the liberating part: once you accept that life isn't fair, you stop waiting for permission to succeed and start taking what's yours. The universe doesn't care about your sob story. It responds to action, to value, to undeniable competence. Think about it. When was the last time you actually earned something instead of expecting it? That promotion you didn't get, that woman who friend-zoned you, dream that hasn't materialized. What if instead of blaming circumstances, you ask the harder question: how can I become so valuable that success becomes inevitable? The men who change their lives aren't the ones waiting for recognition. They're the ones who build skills so sharp and presence so powerful that the world has no choice but to notice. Your suffering isn't special, it's optional. Every second you spend complaining about unfairness is a second you're not spending outworking your competition. The moment you stop measuring your life by what happens to you and start measuring it by how you respond, that's when you become dangerous. No more excuses about bad luck or bad timing, just relentless focus on what you can control. The job market doesn't owe you a position. Women don't owe you affection. The universe doesn't owe you success, but you owe it to yourself to become the kind of man who doesn't need favors from life, because he's too busy taking what he's earned. That's real power, not expecting handouts, but building hands strong enough to take what's yours. Let me reveal the silent killer of men's potential. Your addiction to cheap attention is costing you everything that truly matters. That dopamine hit when she finally texts back. The temporary high when your post gets likes. You're trading your peace for pennies while wondering why you feel spiritually bankrupt. Here's the uncomfortable truth: stillness terrifies most men because in the silence, they're forced to confront their own emptiness, the dreams they've abandoned, the man they've failed to become. But what if I told you that the most powerful version of yourself isn't found in the chaos of chasing, but in the quiet moments between? The men who change the world aren't the loudest in the room. They're the ones who've mastered the art of presence, who understand that real strength isn't measured in reactions, but in unshakable composure. That woman who plays mind games, she only has power over you because you've shown her your attention is cheap and easily bought. That friend who drains you with drama, he's exploiting your inability to say enough. Your peace isn't just valuable, it's the foundation of everything worthwhile in your life. When you stop jumping at every notification, when you stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, when you stop begging for scraps of attention, that's when you'll discover a power most men never taste. The ability to sit in perfect stillness while the world screams for your reaction. The clarity to walk away from anything that costs you your center. The discipline to protect your mental space like the sacred ground it is. This isn't about isolation. It's about curation. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. Not every battle deserves your attention. The moment you stop confusing noise for importance is the moment you start hearing the whispers of your true purpose. The question is, are you addicted to the chaos because it's easier than facing the work required in the silence? Let me hit you with a truth so powerful it will either break you or rebuild you. That woman you've put on a pedestal, she isn't the prize. You are, docs, but you've been conditioned to believe your worth is determined by her attention, her validation, her choice to pick you. So you shrink yourself, dull your edges, and beg for scraps of affection like a starving dog. Here's the brutal reality. No high-value woman is attracted to a man who sees a sex her as the reward, because she knows a man who doesn't value himself can never truly value her. The irony, the moment you stop asking, does she like me? And start asking, is she worthy of me? Is the moment the entire game shifts in your favor. You want her to crave you. Become a man who doesn't need her. A man so rooted in his purpose, so unshakable in his standards that her presence is a compliment, not a necessity. That desperation you feel, she smells it. That insecurity you hide, she senses it. Women aren't fooled by your performance. They're mirrors reflecting back exactly where you stand in your own self-worth. The man who walks into a room knowing he's the prize doesn't chase, he chooses. He doesn't negotiate his value, he sets the terms. And if she walks away, he doesn't collapse, because his identity isn't tied to her approval. Your mission isn't to convince her you're enough. It's to become so undeniably powerful that the right woman fights to stand beside you. So ask yourself, are you still begging for a seat at her table? Or are you building a kingdom so impressive that she'd be honored to get an invite to yours? The choice is yours, but kings don't negotiate their worth. They embody it. Here's the raw truth you've been avoiding. Your life will never change until you do. You can nod along to these lessons today and forget them tomorrow, or you can finally wake up and take control of the man you're becoming. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, how much longer will I keep making the same mistakes? How many more years will you waste chasing validation, tolerating disrespect, and settling for less than you deserve? Clock is ticking, and every second you spend stuck in the same cycles is another second you'll regret when you're older, wiser, and out of time. This isn't just advice, it's a lifeline, a wake-up call, a chance to rewrite your story before it's too late. The world doesn't need another man who almost became great. It needs you fully unleashed, unapologetically powerful, and finally living up to your potential. So here's your moment of truth. Will you keep scrolling? Or will you start fighting for the life you actually want? If you're ready to stop being the man life happens to and start being the man who makes life happen, then prove it. Drop the word enough in the comments right now. Let's see how many men are truly ready to change. Hit subscribe, because this isn't just a video, it's the beginning of your transformation. And if even one of these lessons hit you like a gut punch, good. That means there's still fire in you. Now move. The man you're meant to be is waiting, but he won't wait forever.